Hello again everybody and welcome. I've never had more requests than I have had to show the inside of the pyramids, and that is primarily what this video is about. I'm starting with the old pyramids, and they're actually more interesting than the new ones. We're going to drift off to Saqqara. We're going to see the pyramid text. We're going to see Sneferu's pyramids, well, two of the three of them, and as well as duck off to Memphis. Anyway, come along with us. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. After the Australian hotel's normally good breakfast, I was meeting up with Kaman and we were going somewhere very exciting. The first pyramid, and possibly the first major structure made out of stone. Wasn't sure what to expect, but it was far from disappointing. So we had booked a car and a driver, and we was heading for the Saqqara necropolis, which is around 30 kilometers from Cairo. It is interesting to note that the pyramid, Joseph's pyramid, looks a little bit higgledy-piggledy in these photographs, but it doesn't look that way from ground level, and there was also a surprising amount of other ruins, some of them open to the public and some of them not. It was amazing to see so many date palms. I guess we were in the Nile Delta now. Probably should say something about where we're going.
Saqqara is arguably the most historically significant burial ground in Egypt, spanning over 3,000 years of use. While the Pyramid of Joseph is more commonly known in the historical and archaeological world as the Step Pyramid of Djoser, it holds a unique place in both ancient history and modern biblical theory. Classical building history of the Saqqara complex. Located south of Cairo, Saqqara served as the primary necropolis for Memphis, the capital of ancient Egypt. Timeline: it was in continuous use from the first dynasty, circa 1300 BC, through the Ptolemaic and Roman periods. The blueprint of architecture, Saqqara is the site of the transition from simple mud brick mastaba tombs, flat-top rectangles, to the monumental stone pyramids we recognize today. At City of the Dead, beyond Royal Pyramids, Saqqara is home to the Serapeum, a massive underground gallery containing 60-ton granite sarcophagi for the mummified Apis bulls. Onubos tombs, high-ranking officials like Mararuka and Kojemni built mastabas here, featuring some of the most detailed reliefs in Egypt. Pyramid text, the Pyramid of Unas, 5th dynasty, contains the oldest known religious text in the world, carved into its walls. Facts about the Pyramid of Joseph, Step Pyramid of Djoser. The name Pyramid of Joseph is often used by those who associate the biblical Joseph with the pyramid's architect, Imhotep. While mainstream Egyptology identifies the structure as the tomb of Pharaoh Djoser, circa 2670 BC, the Joseph connection stems from striking parallels in their stories.
The Valley Temple of Unos, and we'll check out his pyramid later. The contrast between greenery and Sahara is incredible in Egypt. Likewise, the roadway we're walking on, thousands of years old, but the original trail to Saqqara. Seems they knew more about making roads then than what we do now. The Saqqara complex has many deep excavations and a labyrinth of tunnels, most of them associated with Djoser's pyramid. And there is Djoser's pyramid, and shortly after, Unos's. Can't tell you whose tomb it is, but it would have been someone important. The oldest substantial stone structures in the world. The mortuary temple of Djoser, designed by the legendary Imhotep, and often it is claimed that he is Joseph from the Bible. The snake figure is the goddess Webjet, protecting the Pharaoh from his enemies. I'll have links in the description of my series of videos on the Egyptian gods. As we walked in, we had to touch the temple to feel its soul as it had touched ours. A section of the original roof still survives, supported by the world's first columns used in the building. The 5,000-year-old stonework still is so shiny you can see your face in it, and it is fitted with an accuracy that is simply unbelievable. A great deal of restoration has been done at the site, but none done more than the work done by Jean Philippe Lauer, born in France in 1901 and started working on the site from 1926 right up until his death in 2001. You really have to wonder how big this must have been when it was in use and everything was standing. Standing on the mound above the temple, you see the tombs of nobles and collapsed pyramids in every direction you look. The steep and descending staircase is the entrance to Djoser's pyramid, and on the day we was there it wasn't possible to have a look. But we did look at other pyramids. Some have speculated that it was used for grain storage in line with the story of Joseph. Djoser's pyramid is a stone brick building some 4,700 years old, and you'll notice that the bricks are the exact same size as those bricks used today. But where we were going was the pyramid of Unos. And looking at it, you'd think, why the hell would you want to go and look at that pile of rubble? But you'd be very wrong, and this photograph does show some of the original capstones that the Arabs did not steal to build Cairo. Here is the man himself in statue form. At the base of the pyramid you see some rather unusual looking stones, and how they'd fit into the structure I don't know, but their shape is amazing. All throughout Egypt there always is that hole in the ground. You're wondering where it goes, with a locked gate on it. Look at the amazing shape and craftsmanship of the capstones that remain. They're a magnificent design. Here are the internal structures of the pyramid, a pyramid that was built some 4,370 years ago. The entrance and the people who collect your tickets, and we are going in. Just a couple of things about pyramids. All the ones I've been in have this ramp, and this is quite a kind one. It is some 14 meters long at a slope of 22 degrees, being 1.3 meters wide and 1.3 meters tall. And when you're 2 meters tall, it's very cramped. And in addition, my cameras do not like low light conditions. I must apologize for that. And the Arab who was ahead of us moved through the pyramid with lightning speed. Firstly, the more modern pyramids do not have hieroglyphs, and the hieroglyphs inside this pyramid are legendary. This is the oldest written religious text, being referred to commonly as the pyramid text. We are staring upon writing that was never meant to be seen. This pyramid was supposed to be, like all others, sealed for the rest of eternity. As we enter the king's chamber, the lights have been dimmed to prove a point, making horrible footage even worse, but that point is well worth looking at. The walls are made of limestone, but sandwiched between the limestone is alabaster, and see the way that it radiates the light. And the limestone itself, geez, it looks a lot like cement, doesn't it? Hieroglyphs everywhere, and as soon as my camera catches a bit of light, you can see the magnificent colours. And the styling in these pyramids is unique to that of the rest of Egypt, being from the earliest dynasties. Almost exclusively sarcophaguses have been found to be empty inside pyramids, but it's interesting that this one is covered in the same tar-like substance as the sarcophaguses in the Osiris shaft. Back to Djoser's pyramid, which was the first pyramid, and get a load of its internal structures and chambers. They go on for its said kilometers. And here is Djoser with his traditionally broken nose, but you'll notice those aqua tiles behind him. They are supposed to cover some of the internal structures inside his pyramid. And look at them all, they're everywhere. As we walk around the perimeter, you see interesting things everywhere. And I'm about to show you something that most tourists overlook. The scuff marks on the limestone brick give us some idea of the way that it was shaped. Now inside this temple there's a little hole, and if you look through it, the statue of Djoser, you can see through the hole, has multiple purposes. One is if his body was to be destroyed, his ka or his soul would continue on through the statue, and the other one is so his admirers can come and have a look at him whenever they feel inclined to do so. And there is a hell of a lot of limestone blocks laying around the site that must have fallen off or been taken off pyramids at one stage or another. Through the magic of AI, I have recreated how saqqara once would have looked. But we're not done yet. There are many noble tombs that are worth a look, and one that is open is the tomb of Idut from the 5th dynasty. Not only are the hieroglyphs beautifully carved three-dimensionally, they are beautifully coloured and once would have been magnificent. And did you happen to notice the brown tinge of the skin of the individuals? They don't at all look like Arabs, do they?
Those portrays everything on the walls to be real life. So this is a catching fish, for example. This spot, which is made of papyrus. We have a specific kind of fish here, which are Egyptian, kind of fish in the Nile. The story of taxes in ancient times. Those people trying to punish the others because they didn't pay the taxes to the government.
The same thing happens today. In case the video didn't make it obvious, the tax officials were pulling the teeth of individuals who owed them money. In the offerings room you see the life cycle of cattle, from them being attended to until their butchery and the way that it was accomplished. Likewise for birds too. I do not know what kind of bird that is. Just a last look around the tomb before we leave, and I'm trying to convey the quality of the carvings. They are magnificent. The empty burial chamber, with spells above to resurrect Idut into the afterlife, or what the Egyptians called the field of reeds. The large images are of Idut in life. Mobile again, and only travelling about 13 kilometres this time, but we are going to see something truly amazing. The first true pyramid. The owner of that pyramid was the Pharaoh Sneferu, and he is said, unbelievably, to have had 3 pyramids, and 4 if you count a little one. Now, this is a case where conspiracy theorists say the historians might have had that wrong, and it is quite logical that they did. The first of his pyramids was known as the Maiden Pyramid, although it's possible that he inherited that one from Honey. Now, that pyramid suffered a structural failure and its external casing stones fell down. It is interesting to note the solid core that remains, and that may be the way the rest of the pyramids are made also, only that part of it cannot be seen. Now, unfortunately, that wasn't one of the pyramids I had an opportunity to look at, but if you're interested in its internal structures, here they are, and apparently they are amazingly intact. The second pyramid in his collection was the Bent Pyramid, and that one is particularly interesting. I'll show that one later in the video. And the last pyramid, and the one where his remains were supposed to be, although they were never found there, was the Red Pyramid, where we are going. In fairness to the historians, I'll be presenting the traditional account of the Red Pyramid.
The Red Pyramid, also known as the North Pyramid, is one of Egypt's most significant architectural triumphs. Located in the Djoser necropolis, about 40 kilometers south of Cairo, it was the first successful attempt by ancient Egyptians to build a true, smooth-sided pyramid. Here is everything you need to know about this crimson-hued masterpiece. Building construction history and construction. The Red Pyramid was built during the 4th dynasty, circa 2590 BC, by Pharaoh Sneferu, the father of Khufu, who later built the Great Pyramid of Giza. Sneferu was a prolific builder, but his path to the Red Pyramid was paved with trial and error. The Maiden Pyramid, his first attempt, which likely collapsed or was abandoned. The Bent Pyramid, his second attempt, which changed its angle halfway up because the structure became unstable. The Red Pyramid, learning from his mistakes, Sneferu's architect used a shallower, more stable angle of 43 degrees, successfully creating the world's first smooth-sided pyramid. Why is it a red? While it looks reddish today due to the red limestone blocks exposed to the elements, it wasn't always this way. Originally, it was encased in a layer of brilliant white Tura limestone. During the Middle Ages, much of this white casing was stripped away to build structures in Cairo, revealing the rusty-colored core we see now. Triangular roller key specifications. The Red Pyramid is massive, holding the title of the 3rd largest pyramid in Egypt, after the Great Pyramid and the Pyramid of Khufu. Feature measurement. Height 105 meters, 344 feet. Base length 220 meters, 722 feet on each side. Angle of slope 43 degrees 22 minutes. Volume 1, 694,000 cubic meters. Candle inside the pyramid. Unlike the Giza pyramids, which can be claustrophobic and crowded, the Red Pyramid offers a more authentic, and often quieter, exploration experience. 1. The entrance, located high on the north face, about 28 meters above ground. 2. The descending passage, a narrow, 60-meter-long shaft leads down at a steep angle. Be prepared to crouch. 3. The two antechambers. These feature magnificent corbelled ceilings, stepped stone roofs, that rise up to 12 meters. This technique was used to distribute the immense weight of the pyramid above. 4. The burial chamber, accessible via wooden staircase in the second chamber. This final room is located directly beneath the pyramid's apex. While it was intended for Sneferu, no mummy was ever found here, only some human remains that may or may not have belonged to the pharaoh.
So for the photographers who are watching, this photograph was taken upon arrival from the car park with a AF 50-24 lens set to 24. That gives you some idea of the bulk of this pyramid. From Kaman impatiently dancing while walking past the debris at the base of the pyramid, either deposited by sand or eroding away from the pyramid itself, and very quickly a younger Kaman overtook me. Rotten show off. Honestly, I've got so much footage of this guy's backside, and as it got steeper I slowed down even more. If the audio had been usable here, he would have been saying, "What kept you?" But I was admiring the view from the top, and in the distance you could even see some gas fields. Wheezing more than a steam train, there was still a couple more steps to go. Bit of a warning here, folks. If you're not fit, do not descend this ramp. It is at an angle of 27 degrees and it is 1.2 meters by 1.2 meters, and I am 2 meters, so you can imagine how much I was cramped up walking down it, and it is 63 meters long. Very shortly you'll see Kaman having a meltdown thinking that I was going to drop dead in the pyramid. Well, he was a little bit wrong about that. At the pyramid after this one, I thought I was going to drop dead too. A final point to add before we start our descent: it is always as hot as hell inside pyramids. Right. Okay. My aim here is to give you the feel of entering a pyramid. And about now you start to ask questions. Not only whether or not you should have went down here, but see that big black hose on the right? That is what's pumping air in here. How did the Egyptians get air in here? And the cable on the left? That one is for electric lights. How did the Egyptians light the pyramids? And in addition, why are all the early pyramids covered in hieroglyphs on the internal structures, but the later ones don't have a single hieroglyph? And in addition, the Valley of the Kings, any tomb you like, is completely filled with hieroglyphs, but these more modern pyramids, nothing. Why? I don't know the answer. And to add to it, the railing and the ramp itself were added for the tourists. How the hell did Egyptians climb in and out of here all day? Did they have some sort of sled or something and was pulled out and in? And when I say modern pyramids, I have to clarify that Egyptians began pyramid building in the 3rd dynasty, of which there are 31 dynasties. The 4th dynasty was the period of time when these megastructures were built, and by the time we got to the 5th and 6th dynasty, they were only building speed humps. After that, then just digging highly decorated holes in the ground. At last, an opportunity to stand up straight and see that magnificent cobalt ceiling, said for weight distribution within the pyramid. But look at the precision of it and look at the ancient graffiti. It's just amazing. Just before we climb through a hole and take to a staircase, can you imagine the grave goods that could have been stacked in here, based on what was in Tutankhamun's tomb? Now, Khufu's pyramid, the daddy of them all, only has one cobalt ceiling. This one effectively had 3. And there's questions about that staircase. It too was added for the tourists. How did the Egyptians find their way around in here? There was no staircase when they broke into the pyramid. Thank God I had time to catch my breath before tackling that monster. But one good thing about the staircase is it gives you time to study the pyramid as you climb it and descend it. Being both a nerd and an engineer, every time I see a joint I study it. And I tell you what, the bricklayers that built our house did not do as good a job as the bricklayers who built the pyramids. And as another nerdy thought, they used no mortar in these, although the Romans did. A short walk down a narrow passageway and we are in the king's burial chamber, along with some more medieval graffiti. In antiquity, grave robbers dug out where the sarcophagus would have been, searching for treasure. And again you see a magnificent cobalt ceiling. Struggling with light here, sorry. After the climb out, it was so good to get some fresh air and cool down and simply admire the view. But we're not done yet. There's more to see as we walk the perimeter. God, everyone's right, I do sound like a school teacher. The perimeter of a pyramid. You'd surely hear that in school, but this is the real deal. And what we're looking at here is a capstone believed to be from the pyramid, but at a different angle, that was found in the 1980s. And it has been placed in what was once the pyramid's chapel. Very little of it left, but this is how it looks today. The bent pyramid comes into view and our next destination. Despite the short distance of only a kilometre we drove, and on the horizon the bent pyramid makes a most unusual sight. Panning the camera, there was 3 pyramids. The bent pyramid, the red pyramid and the black pyramid, one I didn't go to.
The bent pyramid is one of the most fascinating glitches in architectural history. Located in the royal necropolis of Djoser, about 40 kilometers south of Cairo, it serves as a massive, stone and mortar diary of how the ancient Egyptians learned, through trial and error, to build the perfect pyramid. Here is everything you need to know about this unique monument. 1. The basics. Pharaoh, built by Sneferu, founder of the 4th dynasty and father of Khufu, who built the Great Pyramid. Date, around 2600 BC. Original name, Sneferu Ko, Sneferu Shines, or the Southern Shining Pyramid. Dimensions, it stands about 105 meters, 344 feet tall. 2. Why is it bent? The pyramid is famous for its sudden change in slope. It begins at a steep 54-degree angle at the base, but about halfway up, it abruptly shifts to a shallower 43-degree angle. The theories. The structural panic theory. This is the most widely accepted view. As the builders got higher, the weight of the stone began to cause cracks in the internal chambers and the foundation, which was built on soft clay rather than solid bedrock. To prevent a total collapse, they quickly reduced the angle to lighten the load. The time crunch theory, some suggest Sneferu was aging or ill, and the builders changed the angle to finish the project faster. The Midam effect, Sneferu's previous project, the Midam Pyramid, suffered a structural failure. Learning from that disaster, the architects may have pivoted mid-construction on the bent pyramid to ensure it stayed standing. 3. Architectural first. Despite its awkward shape, the bent pyramid was a massive leap forward in engineering. The first true pyramid attempt, it was the transition from the step pyramids, like Djoser's, to the smooth-sided pyramids we see at Giza. Best preserved casing, unlike the Giza pyramids, which lost most of their outer shells to looters and erosion, the bent pyramid still retains a huge portion of its original polished Tura limestone casing. It gives us the best idea of what a brand new pyramid actually looked like. 2 entrances. It is unique for having 2 separate entrances, one on the north and one on the west, leading to 2 different sets of internal chambers. 4. The Redemption Pyramid. Sneferu wasn't entirely satisfied with the bent pyramid. After the bent design was completed, he immediately started a third project nearby, the Red Pyramid. Using the lessons learned from the bent pyramid's failure, the Red Pyramid was built with a constant 43-degree angle from the start. It became the world's first successful, smooth-sided true pyramid.
The bent pyramid did not escape mining by the Arabs. That is why the corners are missing. They were the easier targets to mine. The internal structures of the pyramid are quite interesting, but probably the most unique factor is the fact that it has 2 entrances, one from the north, which is normal for pyramids, and one from the east. Now this could be the forerunner of the air shafts in the Great Pyramid built by Sneferu's son, Khufu. There's a lot of speculation about these air shafts, but in the case of this pyramid, it is definitely a tunnel for both entry and exit. So then, I bet you're excited to have a look inside, so let's do it. But I had to be a little bit careful filming here because there was a police officer, and that rifle he's carrying is not for decoration. Now please, this is some prudent advice for anybody wishing to travel to the bent pyramid. Firstly, it's important that you let the ramp clear before you descend because there's not much room. We were doing that. And secondly, a lot of people die inside this pyramid. It has a reputation for that. And the reason is the ramp. Now the ramp is some 80 meters long and it's quite steep at 28.22 degrees. And it's not very high, it's only 1.1 meters high, and as I've said before, I'm 2 meters high, and it's not very wide, it's 1 meter wide. So I urge you, if you have any doubts about it, don't do it. It's not worth your life. Any health concerns, and make sure that you drink plenty of water. On the way out, I got dizzy and I thought I was going to faint, at least. I didn't. And I'm pretty fit. I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but most younger people actually have trouble keeping up with me. But this ramp really did test me. At this point, the question of social cohesion comes to mind. In a country where they pull teeth if you don't pay your taxes, how the hell does Sneferu build 3 pyramids? Were they more easily built than we ever imagined? The tax burden would have been so heavy they probably cheered the day they locked him up in his pyramid. Now the story that this one was falling down must have been far from true because it's still standing today. And if he had no intentions of using it, why didn't he mine it like the Arabs did? It stands in an almost completed condition, just waiting for a pharaoh's body. Or almost there and a chance to straighten up, and what's waiting for us? Bloody steps. I think those wooden beams could be there to stop the structure from crashing in upon us. That's a little bit optimistic. Here we go again, and I apologise for the video of a stranger's backside. Little bit hard to spot, but there is an upside down staircase in the ceiling. We are certainly gaining altitude. These staircases reinforce the scale of the pyramid. Like climbing a stairway to heaven. Well, it was supposed to be for the Pharaoh. The roof starts to become interesting, a short passageway that you need to crawl through, along with one of the pyramid builders blocking the pathway. It almost gives you the feeling of being inside a cave, and you'd wonder how they'd move big objects around these curves, or maybe they were designed to stop people from removing big objects. It's pretty obvious, but it needs to be said. When you're crawling around inside pyramids, don't think you're going to come out of them with clean clothes. The contrast between cave and sculpted pyramid is obvious, but the second entrance may explain it. It doesn't have a sign on it, but I think this blocked up passageway may be that second entrance. Almost there, the final staircase to the king's burial chamber. The ceiling, which is rather an odd shape covered in bats, And when you get to this point, you feel that you have really achieved something. That's working. There's a very sweaty command. Lovely lady from Belgium. Again, the floor has been dug out in the burial chamber, presumably by tomb robbers, but why would they do that in a pyramid that was never used? Or was it used? Did history get it wrong? And again, my cameras are struggling with light, but I'm doing my best. After almost having a heart attack and buying a very suspicious bottle of water, it was good to be on the surface. Now, it's interesting to note that had they not changed the angle, this pyramid would have been the biggest one, not Khufu's one. Its volume was simply massive. And literally for thousands of years, these were the tallest man-made structures in the world. And to put the timeline into perspective, when Europeans were killing woolly mammoths and trying not to be eaten by saber-toothed tigers, the Egyptians were building things like this. This is what is left of the temple. Even more interestingly, there is a satellite pyramid, and we're going to have a look inside that one too. But why would you build a second pyramid if you wasn't going to use the first one? Couldn't resist panning back to the Red Pyramid. Its internal structures are almost perfect. However, the Arabs have removed all of its casing stones. Except these ones at the base. Sometimes in Egypt, locked doors can be opened with a bit of negotiation and a little bit of cash. And what we are about to see is not seen by many tourists at all. It is a very rare sight. And it is speculated it could be for Sneferu's wife. His main wife was Queen Hatshepsut I, but it may have been for a minor wife, or alternatively for his car, what we call our soul. Don't know why you'd need a pyramid for that. There is also the alternative point of view that he had this pyramid ready in case he didn't finish the Red Pyramid in time, and it could be used by somebody else, but truly we don't know what happened here. It's worth taking a minute to look at the splendid workmanship in this object, which is thousands of years old and has been raped and pillaged by practically everybody since the day it was built. The unused or maybe used burial chamber even comes complete with its own corbelled ceiling, and it's just as fantastic as the big one next door. Zooming past the Halmina Mosque, travelling the 9.1 kilometres to the Temple of Ptah, or what's left of it, in Memphis. And a brief outline of the history of the site.
For over 3 millennia, Memphis wasn't just a city, it was the heartbeat of ancient Egypt. Located at the strategic tip of the Nile Delta, it served as a bridge between Upper and Lower Egypt, earning it the nickname, the balance of the two lands. Classical building origins and the White Walls. Founded around 3100 BC by the Pharaoh Menes, also identified as Nama, Memphis was established to unify the newly joined kingdoms. Originally called Imhotep, the White Walls, due to its whitewashed mud brick fortifications, it remained the capital during the Old Kingdom, the golden age of pyramid building. The name Memphis is actually a Greek corruption of the Egyptian Mennefer, referring to the nearby pyramid of Pepi I. Building construction religious significance, the cult of Thor. Today, the site is an open-air museum in the village of MIT Rahina. While the towering palaces are gone, several massive artifacts testify to its former scale. Artifact significance. Colossus of Ramesses II, a fallen limestone statue originally 13 meters tall. The Alabaster Sphinx, the largest calcite statue ever discovered, 80 tons. Embalming tables, massive stone blocks used for the mummification of the Apis bulls. Note, because the Nile's course has shifted and the water table has risen over 5,000 years, much of the ancient city remains buried under silt and modern farmland, waiting for future excavation. Memphis was the primary court center for Thor, the god of craftsmen and architects. According to Memphite theology, Thor created the world simply by thinking of it and speaking its name. The Great Temple of Hot-Kotor, one of the most massive religious complexes in Egypt. The Greek word for this temple, Aegyptos, is actually the linguistic ancestor of the modern word Egypt. The Apis bull, Memphis was the home of the sacred Apis bull, believed to be the living incarnation of Thor. When the bull died, it was mummified and buried with royal honors in the Serapeum at nearby saqqara. World map geography and layout. Unlike the stone-built temples of Luxor, Memphis was a living metropolis built largely of mud brick, which is why much of it has vanished today. At its peak, it was likely the largest city in the world. Strategic location, it controlled the flow of trade and taxes between the Mediterranean and the African interior. Cosmopolitan hub, because of its commerce, Memphis was a melting pot. By the New Kingdom, it had neighborhoods for Hittites, Phoenicians, and Greeks. The necropolis, the city was served by a massive City of the Dead on the western plateau, including Saqqara, Obusa, and the pyramids of Giza. Chart decreasing decline and rediscovery. The city's dominance began to wane when the capital moved to Thebes, Luxor, during the New Kingdom, and it suffered a fatal blow with the founding of Alexandria in 331 BC. As Christianity spread, the old temples were abandoned. Later, when Islamic Cairo was built, Memphis served as a quarry. Its high-quality limestone and granite were hauled away to build the mosques and palaces of the new capital. Amphora, what remains today.
Cynically speaking, upon arrival you are greeted by a group of merchants who are very insistent upon selling you things and will not take no for an answer, and particularly like euros and US dollars. The broken but still colossal statue of Ramesses II. The scale of the statue is such that the enclosure is in fact on 2 levels. I believe this to be a bust of the Egyptian god Bastet, along with other assorted debris from the fallen temples. The 3,000-year-old statue was again found in 1897, and locals thought it was a crocodile poking out of the river. That is why you notice one side of it is very weathered. But the detail is amazing, and in that period of time they had no way of retrieving the statue. So eventually a building was built around the statue rather than moving it. How did the Egyptians do it? Between Ramesses' legs you find a carving of his son, Prince Chemoset. Making your way down the pathway, it's hard to believe what this place once was. Karnak is enormous, and this was supposed to be bigger than Karnak, and it has been raped and pilfered that much that there is only debris left. This is an incredible shame. Ramesses again watching over the tourist wearing the crown of Lower Egypt. a table used for the mummification of aphis bulls. A rather unique sphinx whereby it is made of alabaster and weighing some 80 to 90 tons. And surprisingly, the face is female despite brandishing a beard, and it is believed that it is the Pharaoh Hatshepsut. What the Arabs did here was terrible, finishing with a broken batar, probably to match his broken heart. Been a long day, and the three of us were hungry. We were in the car again, heading to an Egyptian restaurant, an amazing place, and I'm damned if I can remember the name of it. We had ordered and was waiting for our food, and when it come, it was magnificent. And I must say that Egyptian food is generally pretty good. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. It's about 2 weeks' work, and I'd appreciate it very much if you liked and subscribe. It does make a difference. There's even some more pyramids to come yet. I haven't been to see the main pyramid, the Pyramid of Khufu. Anyway, stay safe, and until next time, cheers for now. And there's plenty more to come.